as entrepreneurs, we struggle on a lot of things. And one of the biggest things we struggle with is, driving our business. We're working so hard in our business. We want to be more successful. We want to serve more people. We want to make a dent in the universe. It's sometimes we forget that success is different than just building a great business. We want to live a life on purpose, that we're really making a big difference. We want to bring together those best practices of the most successful entrepreneurs. And that's what we're doing here at aesnation.com. But in addition to that, we want to make sure we design it so that we live a great life for all stakeholders, not only for ourselves and our enlightened self-interest, because that's what makes us more successful, but it's also everyone else we have the privilege of working with, our clients, our customers, our teammates, our partners. And I'll tell you, I'm really excited today. I have an unbelievable, talented entrepreneur who brings together both parts. So often, we get kind of the soft, fuzzy stuff over here, and then we get the, hard business side over here, and they don't get together. Well, I'll tell you, I had the opportunity to meet Chris a couple years ago, and I was just blown away. So we have Chris Attwood, and he's going to show you how you can bring this together so you can have a hugely successful business and a great life. Stay tuned.
Exceptional breakthroughs. Dig deep. Think bold. Drive hard. Watch yourself soar beyond your dreams. AESNation.com.
Chris, I am so excited to have you here. I know you're traveling by the magic of Skype. I don't even know where you are now, but I know you're on the road. So thank you for joining us.
I'm in Germany.
Oh, Germany. Today's technology, it's just amazing what we can all do. And Chris, I really appreciate you taking the time to share with our viewers, our listeners, some of your insights, because you have made such a huge difference in so many people's life. And what I want to do is just take a step back, though. I'm thinking as a young man, you didn't wake up and say, okay, I am going to solve one of the most pressing problems in the world. I'm going to go ahead and help everyone live a life on purpose so they have a great life and make a big impact. How did you get to where you are?
Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you so much for having me. As you said, when we met, I felt an immediate connection. I'm so glad to have the chance to reconnect with you in this context. So, for me, I was fortunate, I would say, in that for the first half of my life, I made choices based upon the things I loved. I did the stuff that I wanted to do. I pursued all sorts of crazy things and ideas. I had a lot of fun. I traveled all around the world in the process. And then there came a time when I got married. And maybe some of your listeners can relate to this. And I didn't realize it at the time, but when I got married, I had this concept that now I'm the breadwinner. I'm the one who has to bring in the money. I have to see that we can pay the bills. I have to make sure that we live a comfortable life. And that was my downfall. I have to tell you. It was like, oh my God. Over the next 5 years, I went through 4 different positions, all executive positions. I was chief operating officer, general manager.
Your resume reads like unbelievable what most people would dream of in, not just quite earning a paycheck.
Yeah, well, I had good jobs. The problem was none of those jobs were things that I was passionate about. I hadn't figured out that this was really important. I was all about the money. How much money are they going to pay me? Am I going to get equity in the company? What sort of partnership opportunities are there? That's the stuff that I was looking at, And I've come to realize that while all those things are important, those have to be your number 2 when it comes to making decisions. The number 1 has to be, am I passionate about this? Is this going to light me up? Is this going to turn me on? But I hadn't learned that at that point. And so I'd go through a position, and I'd get a year and a half into it, and I was like tearing my hair out. And you can see the result, It was an awful time. And I was miserable. And I remember I got into this one position. It was an international recruiting company, and we were recruiting health practitioners from overseas, primarily physical and occupational therapists. And I was new to this. I was a partner in the business at this point, but I'd been brought in by the founder to help pull the business together. And it took me a while to figure out that we were charging less than it was costing us to bring the therapists into the country. Now, you can guess that that's not a good prescription for a successful business, right, John?
Well, I mean, there's been many of us as entrepreneurs who have really tried to scale up before we figured it out. And, the revenue numbers are phenomenal. I've been there. I mean, as I'm listening to this, and I know all our fellow entrepreneurs are listening to this, we've all gone through this. And unfortunately, many of us are still there that, we're in something we're not happy, but we're doing it kind of for the money, the drive, the ego. And, we're looking at the top line, and geez, all our friends are patting us on the back, think we're hugely successful and
traveling.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to the Philippines, recruited 100 therapists, I mean, we had a lot of business going on. But the problem was we got to a point, as you can imagine, if your costs are higher than your revenue and you don't have an outside source of revenue to make it up, we got to the point I went 4 months without getting paid. I hadn't, at that point, figured out how incredibly important it is to pay your payroll taxes. And so, fortunately, oh my God, today I wiped my brow, that we figured it out before the IRS came and took my house, but we were going through all of this stuff. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night one day and I was shaking. I was just, my whole body was shaking. And it took me about an hour and a half to get through that. But I realized something had to change. This just was not working. And so it was at that time that my business partner today, Janet Bray Attwood, who was my wife at the time, but we realized that being husband and wife wasn't the best relationship for us as much as we love each other. And so we got a divorce after 5 years, and then 3 years later became business partners. And today we have a very successful business together. But at the time, Janet said, you need to do something different. And she introduced me to this little thing that she called the passion test. She hadn't really shared it with more than 10 or 12 people at this point. But she said, you got to go through and figure out what are the things that are really important to you. And so I did that for the first time. That was probably close to 20 years ago now. And it really shifted everything for me, John. If I look at one moment that was kind of a defining moment, that was one of those for me, because now I started doing what in my early life I had done just accidentally, but now I did it consciously. I started making choices based upon the things that really mattered most to me. And it wasn't long after that I got a new position. I started making more money than I ever had before. I was selling consulting and training to Fortune 500 companies and doing incredibly well at it. And then not long after that, Janet called me up and said, I have this opportunity to work with Mark Victor Hansen and Robert Allen. Mark Victor Hansen, co-creator of Chicken Soup for the Soul series, and Bob Allen, #1 New York Times bestselling author of Creating Wealth, Nothing Down. And we ended up partnering with Mark and Bob, created something called the Enlightened Millionaire Program. We enrolled about almost 1,000 people, brought in about $1 million in our first year, and really, that's how I learned this whole world that you are now so expert in, John, of how do you reach people online? How do you create an information marketing business? And Janet had this passion for the passion test. And so that became an ebook. We did teleseminars, not unlike like this, but it was teleseminars in those days. Self-published the book. Penguin bought the rights in 2007. It became a New York Times bestseller. We now have 1,400 facilitators in 50 countries around the world. And we can say that the passion test has become the #1 tool used worldwide to discover passion and connect with purpose.
No, and there's so much insights in there for all your fellow entrepreneurs. I want to just kind of bring it back. I mean, the mistake so often that we make, all of us as entrepreneurs, is that we've got to build a really successful business and make sacrifices. And I'm not saying that there aren't some sacrifices along the way, but we don't have to sacrifice our life. We don't have to sacrifice our families. We don't have to sacrifice our happiness, our communities. And what I've seen, and you've studied it a lot, and I've studied it in our financial services, working with some of the most successful financial advisors and having the privilege of working with so many entrepreneurs on their financial affairs. I mean, money has no beyond survival, it has very little correlation with happiness. But the people who actually take the time to be thoughtful about how to design their life on purpose, boy, it just makes a huge difference. And that's one of the things when we first met, Chris. We were at a Brendan Bouchard event. You're both, Brendan's extremely talented individual, and we're both looking at different ways to get the message out. And I forgot who introduced us, but we ended up having lunch together, and it was just
Dan Kushel, Joe Polish's
COO,
right.
CEO type, and Dan's a great guy. Yeah, that's right. We were sitting together, and it's just I think there's not enough matching of this business, entrepreneur, hard driving, and passion, and I really commend you for kind of leading the charge. Now, tell me what, as you're doing this, what was the big breakthrough? Because, I mean, you got that first start, which, I mean, sounds great. And I know you've been out there doing a lot. Let me just play this segment here real quick. So I'm looking for, what was a big breakthrough? I mean, you made that separation from, really corporate life. And, as I'm listening to you, I'm going through my own and, charging hard, really foolish, got acquired, great people. I was a senior partner, I was CEO of a large U.S. financial side. And first year was great. Second year, not so good. Flying around private jets, doing acquisition, the whole thing. And my wife, I don't know, something about wives. They looked at me and just said,
right.
You're not happy. And I know I had some liquidity events, so I was flexible, and it was kind of like, you know what, I'm not. And I got offered a lot of money when I quit to stay, and I said no. And that's where, I took a year off, got a chance to think about it, and then created the businesses that I have today with some great partners, and live a life that I could only dream of before, but I didn't take the time to dream of it. And what was a big breakthrough in, not only your own life, but helping others to do this?
So thank you for that. I mean, the breakthrough in my life was really recognizing that I had to begin choosing in favor of my passions. And the thing, I just want to comment on this, and then I'll get to the answer to your question, John. But as we have gone more deeply into this whole arena, and we have a program called the Passion Test for Business, which is really designed both for small entrepreneurial businesses and large, enterprise-sized businesses. And what you see in the literature today is that great companies are companies where their employees are fully engaged. And the only way that you get engagement among employees is that the employees are passionate about the work that they're doing, that they love what they're doing. And when that's true, then they're motivated. You don't have to drag them into work because they want to come on their own. And we've seen that there's been studies done that show there's a direct correlation between the level of engagement in a company and the bottom line, the profitability of that company. So passion is not something that's just a nice to have. It's actually an essential piece, particularly for an entrepreneur, because it's what keeps you going. The thing I think you know as well as I do, John, is that if you're an entrepreneur, your life and your revenue stream is probably going to go like this for a while. That there's.
It's easy to become a manic depressive as an entrepreneur along the way here.
We all experience these ups and downs until we get to a point that we can even it out, and so the passion is what keeps you going when everything seems to be collapsing around you. It's what inspires you and allows you to keep moving forward. And I think, for us, it was that same thing that Janet and I, our company is called Enlightened Alliances, because we recognized early on that both of us seemed to have some skill and talent. And this is a key piece. A successful entrepreneur takes their passions and combines them with their natural talents to serve a need that others have that can generate value and income. And so what we did is we started connecting with all sorts of people in our industry and in other industries and bringing them together, providing things that they needed, being able to find out what was their critical need, and then finding ways that we could help them fulfill that. So that over a period of several years, we developed some really strong, loyal relationships among people who were incredibly successful. For 7 years, we did interviews with some of the most successful people in the world about how they discovered their passions, how they overcame them. And along the way, we created relationships that then created business opportunities for us and for them as well. So, we interviewed people like Paula Abdul and on the other end of the spectrum, Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus and Tony Robbins and all sorts of people from many different genres and backgrounds. The breakthrough for me, I would say, was when we, from a business standpoint, the breakthrough was when we started engaging a team to enroll people into our primary revenue generator, which for us is a certification program. We certify patch test facilitators. Up until that time, we were doing all the enrollments ourselves. We'd go out, we'd give talks, we'd speak to 100, 300, 500 people, 1,000 people, and then we'd invite those people to enroll in our certification program. That's how we generated revenue for the business. But if we weren't speaking, there was no revenue. That wasn't much fun. And so the transition for our business was when we brought together a team and created a system, an online system, so that they were generating revenue even when we weren't speaking. And that's what created stabilized our business, really, is that we went from having these ups and downs. What would happen with us, John, is we'd have an up, and then we'd have a down, and when we were in the down, we'd say, "Oh my God, we have to come up with a new program. We have to create some new product." So we'd go rush around and create a new product. And it's not a bad thing to do, as I'm sure you know, John. Some necessity is the mother of invention.
That creative tension can really work well, but it gets old after a time.
Oh boy, does it get old. But I just have to tell you this quick story. In one of those down periods, we said, okay, people have been telling us we're so good at creating alliances, let's create a product called Alliance Secrets. And so we did. And we enrolled a bunch of people in it. It provided the income we needed at that moment. But one of our students was a woman by the name of Rhonda Byrne. And she contacted me when Janet was in India, and she said, "I'm creating this movie. It's going to change the world. I'd love to have you involved, and let me send you the trailer." So she sent us the trailer, and it was off the charts. It was so amazing, so powerful, so well done. She had a television production company in Australia, so it wasn't like she hadn't done this sort of thing before. And so we ended up spending several months, 3 or 4 months, just setting up interviews for her. We arranged for her to come to Aspen, Colorado, and interview many of the Transformational Leadership Council members that was founded by Jack Canfield. And that movie came out in, 2005 or 2006. It was called The Secret. Today it's been viewed by some 400 million people. It's the #1 New York Times best-selling book that I think it's still on the New York Times list some 7 or 8 years later.
No, I remember, I didn't know of it because I was a financial guy, and I'm going down the Colorado River with 16 friends, going through the Grand Canyon, and I don't know if you know David Bach. He's a very successful financial
He's a good friend
guy.
of ours.
Yeah, David's a super guy. We go skiing together. We went on this raft trip with a bunch of our other buddies, and we had rafting, kayaking, and all this, and David climbed to the highest peak, and he opens up his book, and it was The Secret. And David's a very smart guy, and I'm going, what is that book? And so no, and and a lot of people have shared with me, the big role that you played there. And you've been really powerful on alliances, and I want to come back to that, but I want to just touch on a couple of things that you mentioned that are just so important, for all entrepreneurs. This idea of building it first. I don't care whether you're in professional services like Chris, providing information, or whether you're selling widgets. It's that concept of, going ahead and nailing the process so it's a great client experience in what you're doing, and then scaling. And that, for many of us, is the big breakthrough. And then the other thing, Chris, you mentioned productivity. And a lot of guys like me that are number people, they look and they say, geez, this is happiness stuff, that's good. Let Chris talk about it.
Right.
And really where it hit me, there's a guy, a professor at Harvard, Sean Ecker, who wrote a book called The Happiness Advantage. Had Sean out in front of a hard-nosed group of financial people, really some of the most successful wealth managers in the world. And Sean just, when he started sharing some of the numbers, and what I remember, it was about a 30% increase in productivity by having your team really, embrace happiness and go on this journey with you. So, I mean, for all of us who are hard-nosed, this stuff, bringing it together, even if you don't want to be happy, you want your team to be happy.
That's right. Forget about happiness for yourself. Just make sure your team is happy.
Yeah.
It's great. Well, and I'll give you a number, John, that's kind of interesting to look at. Gallup has done a lot of this research. There's a number of companies that have, but companies in the same industry, when you compare companies that have a high level of engagement, and I've forgotten what high level means, but we can look that up, but high level of engagement, which are these are companies which are in the top 5 in their industry, and you compare them to companies that are at the bottom of their industry, or at just average companies, not the bottom, but average. It's an 8-to-1 difference. The level of engagement is 8 actively engaged to 1 in the top 3 or top 5 companies, and then in the average companies it's 1.5 to 1 engagement.
Yeah.
The difference on a profitability standpoint is EPS, earnings per share, was 51% higher in those companies with those high levels of engagement compared to the average.
That's just huge, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, Chris, is because I don't think as entrepreneurs, we kind of think of this that much. And this is something, particularly, a lot of the people starting out and, solopreneurs and creating businesses, they actually do. I mean, okay, I've got a blank slate, I'm going to design it. But when we get caught up and we're having success and we have a lot more flexibility to do this, we don't do it. Now,
that's when we really need to do it, I have to say. I don't know if you know Craig Hanley and Tony Ricciardi. They own a company called Listen Up Espanol. They have about 1,000 employees. It's a call center in Mexico that they take calls for products that are run on infomercials in the U.S. appealing to the Hispanic market. And they brought us into their company when they had grown from 20 to 1,000 in a couple of years, right? And they said that this company's getting out of hand. We can no longer communicate our values to all of our employees. And how do we do that? And so we came in and we instituted the Passion Test for Business. We took the management team through identifying what was most important for the company and what were the top, I think they had top 8 passions for the company. And what is the unique contribution of that company? Got that out to the employees, trained about 95% of the employees, and then did a retrospective study looking at those who had gone through the passion test process and who were engaged with their passions with the company compared to what had previously been their top performers. Because their top performers, interestingly enough, were the ones who didn't go through the training because they didn't want to take them off the floor. They didn't want to come off the floor, right?
No.
And what we found was that in 5 campaigns, because this was a sales organization, you can measure sales, right? 5 different campaigns, those who had gone through the passion test training outperformed what had previously been their top performers in all 5 campaigns. And we also created a process for their new hires, and so that to get them aligned right away, and they didn't outperform the old guard, except on one campaign. On one campaign, even the new hires outperformed what had previously been their best performers. So, the passion stuff makes a difference. When people are excited and passionate about their work, they're more motivated. People who are passionate are magnetic. You want to be around someone who's excited, someone who's happy, someone who's engaged, someone who is turned on about what they're doing. It's attractive. And so naturally you're going to do more business.
No, it's great. And so I'm going to turn it around. What are you most passionate about now that you're working on, Chris? I mean, you got a lot of things going on that I know, but what are you most passionate about now?
Well, it's something dear to my heart, and at first glance would be so far removed from what you do, John, and probably what many of your listeners are thinking about. But we have a new book coming out October 21st. It's called Your Hidden Riches, Unleashing the Power of Ritual.
I'm pulling it up on my screen here. Let me pull it up. And it's on Amazon. At the time of the recording, it's not yet out. So I see I've got it pre-ordered. When is it coming out?
It's coming out October 21st. And here's the thing about this book, because people, especially entrepreneurs or business people, would say rituals. What do I need with rituals? But the truth is that rituals are the unspoken secret of all successful people. And the reason they're unspoken is because those rituals are generally very personal. They're things you don't talk about. You don't share them that much in a public setting because there's something very personal to you. But what you'll see is that the most successful people in the world all incorporate rituals in one way or another into their lives. And they do that to be able to perform at their best when they need to stay calm when they're under intense pressure, and to be able to create balance in their life. And here, I'll give you a couple of fun ones and then one that's more serious, okay? Mm-hmm. Simon Cowell. You know who Simon Cowell is, John?
I do.
The producer, American Idol, Britain's Got Talent.
And he's got some really nice cars. I'm a car guy. So
really nice cars. There you go. He's probably worth $300-400 million.
Yes.
You know what his daily ritual is?
I do not know.
Climbing a tree.
Okay.
Every day he climbs a tree. Now you'd say, "Oh my God!"
I might start tomorrow if that's what works.
Well, and I want to say, I'm not suggesting that everybody should go out and climb a tree, but just think about it for a minute. Why would a grown man who's incredibly successful climb a tree every day? And what I would suggest is that most of Simon's life, like most of our lives, are very focused, really busy. He's got a lot to deal with, a lot to stay on top of. And my guess is he could exercise a lot of different ways besides climbing a tree, right? He could get in the gym, work out. But why climb a tree? Probably, I would guess, it's because it makes him feel like a kid. It's a way to have fun, a way to laugh, a way to feel silly, because I'm willing to bet that there aren't a lot of places in his life where he gets to feel silly outside of when he's climbing that tree. So that's one fun one. There's another one. You know the actor Colin Farrell?
I do.
The Irish actor?
Yes.
So every time that he starts a new movie, he wears a particular set of boxer trunks covered with shamrocks that say, the luck of the Irish. And you might laugh at this and say, "Oh, it's superstition." But I have to tell you, John, when we're talking about rituals, we're not talking about religious practices. We're not talking about superstition. We're not even talking about habits. We all have good and bad habits, things that have developed unconsciously. But when Colin Farrell is wearing those boxer shorts, I'm pretty sure the reason he does it is because it reminds him that he's lucky. He's Irish. He's lucky. He's going to do a great job in this film because it puts him into a mental, emotional state where he's ready to perform at his best and to accept the luck that he's entitled to because he's Irish. So I would like to give you one more if I can, and this isn't a business example. I will give you a business example before we get done.
No, these are great, Chris.
But there's a World Cup soccer player by the name of Leighton Barnes. He plays for the British soccer team, and he's very successful. And if you ever watch him play, you'll see that when he goes out on the playing field, he kneels down, unties his shoes, and then ties them again. And you say, "Well, why do you do something like that? That's crazy, Why would you do something like that?" And that's clearly, the reason I love this example is it's clearly not a habit. This is not a good habit. It's not a bad habit. It's a ritual. And so why does he do that ritual? The reason that he does that is because it sets his ordinary, everyday life apart from when he has to be at his best, where he has to be out on the playing field and he has to be performing the best that he's able to, and he has to do it with 1 million people or more watching him on television, thousands of fans screaming in the stands. So it's a way that he gets into a mental and emotional state where he can stay focused. And if you ever talk to speakers, John, I know you have a lot of friends who are speakers. You do speaking yourself. A lot of speakers have rituals that they do before they go on stage to put them in that state. You mentioned Brendan Burchard. If you ever see Brendan Burchard backstage before he's about to go on, you'll see him bouncing around like this, and doing this deep breathing and getting his energy up, right?
Do you know Bo Eason? Have you met Bo?
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm backstage with both those guys, and I kind of think and I visualize, and Bo's doing wind sprints. Bo is great at storytelling, a former NFL super athlete, the star, the whole thing. But no, this ritual, I see it over and over again in some of the most successful people I'm working with.
Warren Buffett. Now, you'd have to say he's pretty successful, right?
I think when you're the number one guy in wealth, no matter how you keep score, you got to at least give him a nod for some success there.
Yeah, I think so. And here's another guy. I don't know what all of his rituals are, but one that's become public is that he spends 12 hours a week playing bridge.
Yeah.
And you say, well, is that really a ritual? And I would make the case that anything that you do that is a conscious, intentional practice that you make habitual because you know it improves your life, that's how we define ritual. And Warren Buffett plays bridge because it gives him balance in his life. You know, it gives him a way to relax and to enjoy. And 12 hours a week is a lot of time to play bridge for someone who's, you know, at the top of the financial market. So, you know, these kinds of rituals, the most important thing, here's the thing, the bottom line I would say for your listeners, John, is that a ritual is valuable to the extent that it has meaning and purposefulness for you. It doesn't matter if it seems stupid or crazy or silly to someone else. I mean, I doubt that many of us are going to go out and start climbing a tree every day. And it doesn't matter. You know, thank God Simon Cowell is successful enough that he doesn't care what anybody thinks, you know. So he can climb all the trees that he wants. But the thing that's important is that the rituals that you put into your life are things that have meaning to you. And when they do, then they can serve this purpose of managing your time, helping you manage your time, your energy, manage your thinking. Because especially as a business person, if you're not putting your attention on the things that are going well, there's a lot to put your attention on that isn't almost all the time, isn't there, John?
No, that positive focus, you know, and really having something related. I'm thinking, I like the last 3 years I've taken up golf, and I use that as a, you know, habit. I also, Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach got me doing the 3 gratitudes in the morning.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
just,
That's a ritual.
yeah, and these rituals, I mean, it just puts, you know, the framing. I have a whole process as I'm doing, you know, major projects and so on, and it's just, you know, it really sets the stage. I want to go one more segment here. And this is of applications of the day. What are you using that you really like on your smartphone that, you know, you want to share with fellow entrepreneurs, Chris?
Sure. So, you know, there are a lot of great applications. There are a couple that I use. I'll just throw them out, and then I want to focus on one. There's a program called Wunderlist, WUNDER list. I use that as a simple to-do list program. It's well laid out. It's easy to use. It works for me. And then another one is Evernote. Evernote is a great program to when you just need to jot something down, and it syncs between all of your devices, and it has a lot of ability. You can do outlines, you can write letters, you can write emails in it and send them if you need to, or you can just take notes. I use it a lot to take notes of presentations, and then I want to share some information with a colleague or members of our team, and I can send it directly out of Evernote. So those are a couple of quick programs, but there's one that I think for entrepreneurs, business owners is incredibly valuable. It's called Business Model Generation. It's an app that's available, I know, for the iPad, but it's
I'm putting
based
it
on
up on
book.
the screen here, and it's, you know, you can go on your computer, businessmodelgeneration.com, and get the overview and so on. And why do you like this, Chris?
Well, it's based on a book by the same name, Business Model Generation. It's by a couple of very bright business guys in Europe, Alex Osterwelder and Perez, I forgot his last name. But the thing I like is that they've taken 9 essential elements of thinking about a project and breaking it out so that they call it the business model canvas. So they take I just going to glance over here. You know, they help you think through what are your customer segments? What's the customer relationship that you're looking to create? What's the value proposition you're going to offer? What are the revenue streams that this product is going to generate, or this new business? What are the channels you're going to deliver it through? What are the key activities, key resources you need to be able to pull it together? What are the key partnerships that you need to have? It's all laid out on one page, on one screen, and then they have like Post-it notes, so you can brainstorm about all these different areas, which I'm sure you'd agree, John, these are things that you need to think about if you're going to start a new project, a new business, right?
I know they have a book. I bought their book because I liked, you know, it's a lot of us are visual, and they have all these examples laid out. So I didn't know about the app, and I will definitely download that. And it's a great book as well as Chris saying, a great app. Now, let me go. I
Great
want to go to
process.
resources here real quick. So you have some amazing resources that are available on your website. So I've got a couple of websites. I have the Passion Test and the 30-day Ritual Challenge that I have pulled up. Why don't you tell us what we have here for
Well,
resources for entrepreneurs?
I'd like to give you another one.
Oh, give me another one and I'll pull.
ThePassionTest.com, of course, is a place that anyone can go and learn about the Passion Test process. There's a quick quiz there to see where do you stand in living your passions right now. For business people, we have a site called ASAP Engagement. So you might think as soon as possible engagement, ASAP Engagement. It actually stands for Advanced Solutions for Activating Passionate Engagement. But ASAPengagement.com, that's our business site. It's specifically designed of how do you generate passion and engagement within a business environment. And I'd like to invite your listeners, John, if they are they going to be able to see this interview before October 10th? I should ask that.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely post this early because I want to give everybody notice about the book. And, because I mean, the work Chris is doing, this is an area that you need to really take the time, for these huge jumps in productivity, plus your own personal happiness and those
Totally.
around you.
It's about both, So your listeners, if any of you who are listening, if you go to thehiddenriches.com/book, thehiddenriches.com/book. Up until October 10th, we'll send you a complimentary copy of the book when it comes out if you just pay the shipping and handling. So $6.95 for shipping and handling in North America. Go to thehiddenriches.com/book, and then we're happy to send a copy to you, a complimentary copy just for the shipping and handling.
Okay, so let me put up a few of these things on the screen for the viewers, and I'll repeat it for the listeners. thehiddenriches.com/book. Got a great opportunity to get a early copy of the book as well as some great gifts along the way. For the entrepreneurs that are listening, the Passion Test for Business is ASAPengage.com, and you can go ahead and
Engagement.
Engagement. Yeah, I've got it right on the screen, but I can't read, Chris.
That's okay.
And then the Passion Test, and then just a couple of the Wonder List. I have used that. I've got a couple others I'm using now. I do love Evernote, or if you're kind of a Microsoft guy, you might like OneNote. Use both of those. Are great. Chris, I mean, these are super. Let me kind of take what I'm taking away for our fellow entrepreneurs out of this. The key takeaways, looking at my notes, I got a ton of notes here, but what I love about every time I have the chance to talk with you, Chris, reading, watching the content that you guys create, I mean, it's just amazing. It just reminds me about, how much passion, how important passion is in business. We've got to have a good, solid business. We can't just chase our passions and do things we're passionate about. We've got to create a business structure around it. But boy, when we do that, we can enjoy unbelievable success by doing well because we're helping other people do well. The ritual part, I have not really as consciously looked at that. I want to go ahead and read your book as soon as we get it. And you said it as the unspoken secret of success. And so much of life is setting the stage and not, getting caught up in the absolute moment of, crisis as a business, but being able to be, there and comfortable and ready to perform. You got 1 million people. The laces, I can just see the purpose of that. I mean, a lot of people think that's crazy. And then, what I really very much enjoy is this unique life concept that each of us are put on this earth to really make a difference. And one of our biggest goals in life is finding that. But when we do that, then we owe it to the rest of the world to make that difference and do it in a way that, we can, as Steve Jobs says, that little dent in the universe, we can make a pretty big dent. So, Chris, thank you again for joining me from Germany. I know you're out there doing a whole bunch of events and so on and making a difference in a lot of people's life. And all our viewers here at AESnation.com really appreciate it. All the show notes and all the links will be there. I'll make sure to post this early so you can get access to Chris' book as soon as possible. And Chris, thank you again.
Thank you so much, John. Really pleasure to be with you.
Well, and for all of us out there, the key thing is let's take these lessons and execute. Your clients, your future clients, your teammates, your partners, your families, your communities, they're all counting on you. Don't let them down. We wish you the best of success.
Exceptional, remarkable breakthroughs. AESNation.com